we slanted? Does that look slanted to you? It does look slanted, don't it?
Because it is.
It is. Just a little bit. I see the camera slanted. I'm gonna correct the camera. Why you say that? Yeah, put this in there for me. Thank you. Who's watching? Somebody's watching. Somebody's on, babe. Say hello.
Hello.
Tell you who's on. Well, good afternoon. I don't know who's in here, who's live. How y'all doing? Welcome, I guess, to the afternoon edition of the Pastor's Q&A. I guess today we're gonna dive in, I guess, from a kingdom perspective of what everyone is chit-chatting, which is state-ran education and what's them people down there in New Orleans, Louisiana. They just got their classrooms blocked. So we're going to get into all of that. So Trump wants to kick the education down to the states, and some of the decisions of the states are now being blocked by their federal courts. So we're going to get into that today.
I like that picture.
Okay, I'll change it. So, you said you don't like that picture? No. Okay. I'm sorry. So, it's been all up in arms this morning about. I really want to touch on the Ten Commandments. And how do you feel about them blocking the Ten Commandments from being in the classroom?
Honestly, I don't have any feelings about it.
So let me ask, should the Ten Commandments be in class at all, period? Should it be listed in the school at all, period?
I don't see why not. I would think that whether or not how do I say this? Ten Commandments are just truly just regular moral law. True enough, they are the commandments, but they rule morality. So whether or not it's listed, it should be embedded in us. Unfortunately, I know that it is not.
So when you say embedded, you mean
Should have been taught to you as a child. Don't lie, don't steal, don't kill,
don't cheat?
don't cheat, don't be jealous of other people. You know, just it truly is the basic foundation of living a moral life. So to have it up, honestly, it's to have it up as just regular rules.
So about how does that kind of affect the teaching process?
It doesn't.
So as a parent, you don't believe that that would cause an interference in teaching? Or
How?
well, because they're gonna say that everyone doesn't believe this or believe that, or there should not be there should be a separation.
If
of
you
church
put them
and
up as
state.
rules and you didn't know that they were the 10 Commandments, they would just be regular rules in the classroom.
Sure.
Why not? Show me where it's not. Show me something in the 10 Commandments that is not just basic moral living.
Okay. The 10 Commandments. So
Oh, yeah. You should have no other gods before me. Yeah.
So we can just start with the first one. We can just start with the first one.
Yeah.
I'm the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, the land of slavery.
But that's not the first commandment.
So the first commandment is
You shall have no other gods.
you shall have no
me.
other gods before me.
And you should not have any idols.
You shall not make for yourself a carving, any image or likeness, anything that's in heaven above, beneath. You shall not bow down and serve them. Mm-hmm. I'm the Lord your God, for I'm a jealous God.
Yep.
And the iniquity upon the fathers of the children, the third, fourth generation. Thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. Remember the Sabbath, keep it holy. 6 days you shall work. Honor your mother and father, that your days may belong in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor.
Which is lie.
Which is lie. And thou shalt not cover thy neighbor's house. So
That's mean don't be jealous. Don't want what they got.
So how can you put that in a classroom?
What do you mean? How can you put it in the classroom?
So when I think about like how would you be able to have this in a classroom? On what moral grounds and basis?
I don't know. You answer that.
I don't know. Well, we're teaching not to steal. We're teaching not to lie. You're teaching not to murder. You're teaching not to hate.
Not to,
You're teaching to honor your parents. Okay. So now I think the main question becomes when it comes to thou shalt not have any gods before me.
that would be the only issue.
Okay.
When it comes to putting in a classroom setting, that would be the hot spot. That would be the trigger.
So let me. Okay, so let's go back to your original.
Excuse me.
Your original thing of their morals,
Right.
So, would any other religion God say He doesn't want you to have any other gods before Him?
Allah.
So that would. So even if we didn't say this was the Ten Commandments, is you shouldn't have no other God before your God. You shouldn't create idols to put before your God. So outside of it just being from a Christian standpoint, couldn't we say that they're pretty much covering everybody? Because even you think about, you have some people who have multiple gods. Some people don't even believe in God. So even if you don't believe in God, then it shouldn't bother you. It shouldn't.
But it is, because then it's going to be the argument of, well, I don't believe in God, so why we have to have that up?
Well, I mean, you don't believe in God, and that's great. But
And then for those who have multiple gods, well, none of my gods are like, one is not bigger than the other, or however, I'm not familiar, so I'm not sure how those arguments go, but the enemy has a way of turning everything around to cause division.
great. So but think about this. Some gods, some people believe you have a God for the sun, a God for the moon, a God for rain, a God for this. So you wouldn't ask the God of rain to do what the God of sun would do. So technically you wouldn't want to put that before
Well,
this.
that's what I'm saying. So they would say, whereas we're saying, one God, and He's greater than all, and you have to put every other little g gods down. Now is, oh, well, I can't do that because I got this guy for this, I got this guy for that, and none, one is like at comparing apples and oranges.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, I'm not sure how that argument would go for those who have multiple gods, but I'm just saying, it would be anything to cause division and keep disunity happening. That's just like the race card. The enemy knows a house divided cannot stand. So the goal is, as subtle as things are, well, let's just use the most obvious that would be the issue.
Got you. So a lot of people say that this goes against freedom of religion in the Constitution. Do you believe that it goes against the Constitution? Do you believe that this really goes against the fabric of the American Constitution?
Well, I believe that America was built on God, so no.
Okay. So I was trying to figure out how to blow this up. Because the constitutional, the Constitution, in the First Amendment, said Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Now, when I think of that, the Congress should make no law respecting an establishment of religion, I have to think about who wrote this, the time that it was written, and why it was written. Because the known world really wasn't privy to Islam. There were two fighting forces. There was the Catholic Church, three fighting forces. The Catholic Church, the Church of England, and those who were Protestants who wanted to come out from up under the king telling them how they should be a Christian and the Pope telling them how to be a Christian. So them coming to America to establish that it wasn't, well, maybe there'd be another religion 200 years from now that will come in, because then that would probably undergird everything that they originally built in the beginning. So when I think of no law, Congress should make no law establishing no law respecting an establishment of religion, I'm thinking about the people who wrote this, the reason that they wrote it, and in the time that they wrote it. So I don't think that Islam was on their mind. I don't think that Buddhism was on their mind. I don't believe no other religion but the one that they believed in, that they worshiped. The reason why a lot of them left, the reason why the Protestant left, the reason why Martin Luther did what he did, I believe that that is the religion that they were talking about. And I believe now that because of everything now that has come into America, that now is something different. So my question becomes, are we adapting, are we changing the fabric of the foundation when we include everything else based on the language?
Honestly, I don't know, because I haven't read it in so long. So
just based on this language, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion.
Oh. No, because like I said, we were built on God. Like God. Like you said, it wasn't built on Muhammad. It wasn't built on Buddha. It wasn't built on the Hinduism. It was built on
God.
God. That's what the United States. It wasn't until, we started bringing in other people with other faith, and we became this big melting pot that the other religions came in, and the other gods, and etc. So for me, no. But we know that there are arguments, because if you don't believe anything, you'll fall. If you don't believe in something, you will fall for anything. So even if your belief is, I don't believe in God, that is your belief.
Right.
So if you don't believe in something, you will fall for anything. The Because we have now become such a mix, a melting pot. And we have become so accommodating to everybody and everything. That's the problem.
So when you say we become accommodating to everybody and everything, what do you mean?
We're so inclusive. So that America has become the one nation where you can come here and it doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter what your stance is. Oh, excuse me.
Press that button.
Excuse me. Everything is
Look at the camera. It's a little bitty button.
What are you doing?
we're videoing. It doesn't matter what you believe in. In America, everybody is accepted, and we're all supposed to accept what you believe, and you have a right to believe what you believe.
So let me ask this question.
Wait a minute, because if you go anywhere else, they don't have those freedoms. Either you gonna do what we say or no.
So let me ask this. So with that being said, if this country has been led by Christianity since the beginning of its establishment.
No. We were built
That's what I'm saying.
off of, okay.
So if this country has been led by Christianity,
You keep saying led.
so if this Christian, so let me finish the question.
Okay.
So if this country has been led by Christianity since its foundation, allowing any other religion to come in, wouldn't that go against the very fabric of what we believe? As Christians, wouldn't that go against the very fabric of what we believe?
It would.
So,
Because God was knocking folks' blocks off for mixing.
so with that being said, are we to shun other religions? Well, let me back up. Well, yeah, let me ask that question first. Are we to not acknowledge other people's beliefs?
No. You can acknowledge them and what they believe, but you don't have to allow them to come in and take over you and yours with what they believe.
So, with that being said, so how can I put this? Have we, on the basis of foundation, because we use the word religion, did we misspeak in the writing of the Constitution?
What do you mean?
So we did the message, the church versus the ecclesia, which Jesus never called us to a religion. So since we were never called to a religion, or since we wasn't called to be a religion, we were called to be a kingdom, a ruling government that was ruled by God in his ways. Because of how they were taught by using the word religion, was that the great but downfall of why now we have what we have in this country. And not even just in this country, but what is also pouring into the church.
That's a great question. I don't know.
I mean, because everybody believes that we are a religion. And because we are a religion, God is love and we should love everybody else's religion. But if the mandate was to take over, if the mandate was to be a little leaven, if the mandate was to be sown into the world, you see where I'm going? If this was the gospel of Christ, because like I said, people preach Paul's gospel, which is about Christ, but they don't preach the gospel that Christ preached. So with that being said, have we subjected ourselves to just being this is why it's easy for us to play the sideline.
Okay, say that again. You said a lot.
So if the objective of what we believe, so if the objective of what we are to believe is going out, making change, being the leaven in the bread, right? Because that was one of the parables that Jesus used. We are to be the leaven in the bread that eventually consumes the entire loaf. So if that is the case, then how could we allow another God to come in and set up shop next door? If the Bible was woven into the fabric of building this nation, how can we say, okay, it's great for the Hindu to bring your God here? It's great for...
It wasn't necessarily that they just said, oh, it's great for the Hindu to bring your God here. Honestly, I don't even think when they were being accepting of people, it is easy to be a good person but not be of God.
Explain.
Just because you are a morally good person does not mean that God is your basis and foundation.
Okay.
Because morally, we're born with a moral. You're born, you know right from wrong.
Okay.
You're taught. You are rewired to think a certain way, but innately, by nature, you're born with right from a baby that's being molested realizes that something is wrong.
Okay.
It's just innately. So you can be a morally good person and live a good life, which means that I am accepting of people because I just love people. So in me loving people, I'm not literally thinking about the fact that this person may believe differently than I do. I'm not necessarily thinking about what God they serve because I'm not thinking about what God I serve. I'm just being a good person. I want to help people. So if I see you hurting, I'm gonna try and help you not hurt. If I see you naked, I'm gonna clothe you. If I see you hungry, I'm gonna feed you because that's just what you're supposed to do as a good person.
Right.
So in that sense, when we opened up to other people, it wasn't necessarily, oh, well, you come over here with your God. That makes sense?
That makes sense.
It's more so of, come, you're being persecuted. Come, we have resources, we have land, we have it. And not to mention, at that time, you have to think about, they were more into money. You coming over here, you gonna buy this land. You coming over here, you got to buy. You got to buy food, you got to buy land, you got to build this house. Economics plays a big role in it also. Am I making sense?
It makes sense. I mean, that part I don't disagree with. I believe that we have when people were coming, they knew of the new land. They knew of this country. They knew that this was a great place to start a new opportunity. But a lot of the places that they were coming from, they were instilled in some biblical foundation. Whether they were 100% Catholic, they were Christian, or they had everybody who was coming from a location who, especially during the time of building this country in the 1800s and the early 1900s.
Well, yeah, I'll give you that.
Right. You are right about the economic. They were coming for the economy. They were coming for better life, better living, because we had more. But they were also coming from places that were also still rooted in somewhat of a biblical foundation. Prime example,
I said all of that because you said when they came over, it was the...
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right.
So now, after the country is built and people are now coming in.
That's where we are.
So now we have people who are coming in almost 10, 15 years later. Not 10, 15 years later. Hundreds of years later, saying, okay, well, I'm a Muslim. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. Should we have said, that's great, but this is our foundation?
But again, you miss what I'm saying. It was not looked at like that.
No, what I'm saying is, when the argument rose, right? When the argument came up, because they didn't take prayer out of school, and they didn't take the Bible out of school because it offended Muslims. They didn't take it out of school because it offended Hindus. That wasn't the reason. Their ground basis of taking prayer out of the school was that it was unconstitutional because church and state should be separated. There is no law in the Constitution where church and state should be separated. And as I said before, if you can't be church and state separated if the IRS can tell you what to preach. So if the IRS can tell me what to preach, then that means that me and the government is not separated.
We in bed together.
We in bed together. If I become a 501c3, then that makes me a corporation.
And they get to tell you
and the
what
government
to do.
becomes my head. So then that means the church and the state is not separated. So now everything is, well, other religions. But that wasn't the reason things popped off in the beginning. So when these things...
Well, it had to play a part somewhere in there. And I say that because if it didn't play a part, it would have never happened. somebody had to come in and say, hey, and how do I say this the right way? The only way that there is a division is if there's a problem somewhere.
Right.
So even with the separation of church and state, somewhere somebody had to say, they had to, what am I trying to say? Come on, help me, Holy Spirit. It's not going to be two people who see eye to eye come together and say, oh, well, nope, that's not how this is going to go.
Right.
So in order for the separation of state, church and state, that means somebody had to be in that leadership group that felt something different other than just Christ.
Right.
So you get where I'm going?
I get where you're going.
Okay.
So
I'm trying to think of the right words, but it ain't coming to me. But you get where I'm going.
So they said that it was common practice in public schools to open with oral prayer and Bible reading. That was common practice.
Right.
Another thing that I do believe that when America started, there's nowhere in the Constitution about public schools. Mm-hmm. Public schools really didn't come into play until like the early 1900s because people were typically being schooled either by a church or elsewhere. So, so it really wasn't a issue. So it said the ruling was based on the state constitution openly applied in Wisconsin. The Catholics had a larger voice and even control in politics. The Bible reading was a part. It was legal. They're saying that it's against the First Amendment, which is the establishing clause of the First Amendment, is the reason why they took it out of school. So
okay, so I need you to say that in layman terms because that was a whole lot of words.
So they saying that the first part of the amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, mm-hmm. is known as the Establishment Clause. Mm-hmm. Right. While the second part is or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, which is the free exercise
clause. Okay, I got that. I'm understanding that. Mm-hmm.
So here, this is where it all began. It said removing prayer from the U.S. public schools when the cause against retaliation
case against recitation
recitation of the Lord's Prayer in Baltimore schools. Right. A more significant case had reached the Supreme Court prior, challenging the climax of school prayer.
So therefore, somebody decided that there was a problem with praying in schools.
A Jew was upset with his son. Hands collapsed and head bowed in prayer. He told his son that that's not the way we say prayers. Plus, I can understand because if you're citing what they call the Lord's Prayer, most Jews don't believe Jesus is
the Messiah.
Right.
So therefore, i.e. what I said means what I said. Right. Somebody had a problem. It was more than just separation of church and state. Somewhere somebody's belief was other than that of what a Christian.
Right.
That's what I was saying. Thank you for helping me put that in words. Because you made the statement that it wasn't about their beliefs that separated. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Somebody had a different belief.
So